Former Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal, his former deputy Manish Sisodia and all the other accused in the Delhi liquor policy case cleared of all charges by a Delhi court. The court tears into the CBI saying there was no conspiracy or criminal intent and the agency's theory was erroneous, economically illiterate and legally unsustainable. Tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan explode. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif says it's now open war amid strikes and counter-strikes between the two sides. Pakistan bombs Afghanistan's Kabul and Kandahar hours after Afghan forces attacked Pakistani border troops. Pakistan claims its forces have killed 133 Afghan fighters. The Taliban says 55 Pakistani troops have died in its offensive. In a dramatic political shift ahead of the Tamil Nadu elections, former Chief Minister O. Selvam and loyalist of the late Jayalalitha joins the ruling DMK. OPS was expelled from the AIDMK a few years ago. The Kerala High Court clears the way for the release of the controversial film The Kerala Story 2, overturning a single judge bench's stay order. Former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton testifies to a congressional committee, says she had no idea about the crimes of convicted sex offender and pedophile Jeffrey Epstein, tells the panel US President Donald Trump must testify too under oath. Hillary and Bill Clinton's name appear repeatedly in Epstein files. China removes 19 officials, including 9 from the military, from its list of lawmakers ahead of its biggest annual political meeting next week. Since coming to power, President Xi Jinping has launched waves of anti-corruption drives, calling corruption the biggest threat to the Communist Party. Critics say it's been used as a tool to purge political rivals. Jack Dorsey announces his tech company Block is laying off 4,000 employees. That's nearly half its staff. Attributes the move to AI. Says the company is going strong, but AI will compel most to downsize in the future. First pictures of newlyweds actors Rashmika Mandana and Vijay Deverakonda emerge. The couple tied the knot in Udaipur in traditional Telugu and Kodava ceremonies. Fans flood social media with congratulatory messages. Hello and welcome to the Times of India. You're watching Headlines at 8 with me, Neha Khanna. Our top story. He lost an election. He went to jail. His political empire came crashing down because of it. Today, former Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal was discharged in the liquor policy case, as was his former deputy Manish Sisodia. A Delhi court, while delivering a sharp rebuke to the CBI, ruled there was no overarching conspiracy or criminal intent in the excise policy. The court said the prosecution had failed to substantiate its allegations with credible evidence while discharging all 23 accused in the case. A discharge means there wasn't enough evidence for the case to even go to trial. In very strong words, the court stated the case was built on conjecture and speculative constructs rather than legally admissible evidence. Scrutiny of documents showed facts have been arranged to support a predetermined conclusion. The CBI's theory was demonstrably erroneous, economically illiterate, and legally unsustainable. Those are the words the court used. Kejriwal broke down in tears when the verdict came. He called the liquor policy case the biggest political conspiracy in independent India, saying it was hatched by the BJP to oust his party, the Aam Aadmi Party, from power in Delhi. Kejriwal said, the verdict proved that he and his party are kattar imandar or dead honest. He added, no one should play with the country and the constitution in this way. For the sake of power, truth always prevails. And if the BJP wanted power, it should have earned people's trust rather than sending him to jail. An emotional Kejriwal told the media the sitting chief minister was dragged from his house and put in jail, where he remained for 6 months. Our deputy chief minister Manish Sisodia was kept in jail for almost 2 years. It was a completely fake case. Mud was thrown at us. TV channels ran debates 24 hours a day. News was shown portraying Kejriwal in a negative light. I want to tell the Prime Minister, for the sake of power, do not play with the country and the Constitution in this way. Citing a lack of evidence against Kejriwal and the other accused, Special Judge Jitendra Singh said serious allegations need to be supported with material evidence. Public confidence in the office is affected if it is found that the prosecution's claims were unsupported by material. Discharging Sisodia, the court said the prosecution's case did not survive judicial scrutiny and found no material to suggest any criminal intent on his part. Significantly, the court said the CBI's theory was demonstrably erroneous, economically illiterate and legally unsustainable. The investigation appeared to be a premeditated and choreographed exercise with roles retrospectively assigned to fit a preconceived conspiracy narrative. The investigating officer showed complete disregard for the fact that public servants were discharging routine official duties while implementing government policy. The probe disclosed a calculated and sustained assault on the foundational tenets of the rule of law. The CBI's methodology risked converting criminal investigation into an instrument of overreach. The prosecution narrative collapses under its own weight. That is what today's ruling says. Not only that, the court has recommended departmental proceedings against the investigating officer for framing a public servant without material evidence. This case had resulted in Arvind Kejriwal stepping down as chief minister, following which the Aam Aadmi Party lost power in the national capital in the subsequent election. The then chief minister of Delhi was also jailed for 6 months. The special judge made strong remarks against the CBI, questioning its probe and lack of material evidence to prove the claims. The court questioned why certain statements and opinions were not included in the investigation records, indicating gaps in the manner in which the probe was conducted. The CBI and the Enforcement Directorate had alleged that Delhi's 2021-22 excise policy, introduced when the Aam Aadmi Party was in power, was designed to benefit certain private liquor players with a lobby referred to as the South Group. They had claimed this group paid 100 crore rupees in kickbacks to Arvind Kejriwal's party and its leaders. The case turned into major political ammunition for the BJP in the Delhi Assembly elections, denting the AAP's public image and resulting in an embarrassing defeat for the party in the February 2025 elections. The BJP came to power with a sweeping mandate. Today, that case completely collapsed.
केजरीवाल भ्रष्ट है, केजरीवाल भ्रष्ट है। केजरीवाल ढूंढ रहा है यार, तुम कहां है? मत भाई हो गए सर, संभालिए सर, अपने आप संभालिए, हिम्मत सर, पीछे हिलाओ मत भाई। ये केजरीवाल भ्रष्ट नहीं है। मैंने केवल अपनी जिंदगी में ईमानदारी कमाई है। इन्होंने झूठा केस लगाया और आज ये साबित हो गया। कोर्ट ने कहा है कि केजरीवाल कट्टर ईमानदार है, मनीष सिसोदिया कट्टर ईमानदार है, आम आदमी पार्टी कट्टर ईमानदार है।
देखिए, निचली अदालत ने सबूतों के अभाव में उनको बरी किया है। यह तकनीकी विषय है, क्योंकि यह बात भी सही है कि सैकड़ों की संख्या में सिम कार्ड और फोन सबूत के रूप में नष्ट किए गए थे। अब वो किस भाव से वो सबूत नष्ट किए गए थे, उस कारण से सबूतों का क्या अभाव उत्पन्न हुआ है, इस विषय को लेकर जो भी होगा, सीबीआई एक टेक्निकल इशू है, इस पे अगला स्टेप उठाएगी। वो हाई कोर्ट में जाते हैं या क्या होता है। जहां तक पार्टी का संदर्भ है, इस पूरे डिटेल के आने के बाद वह इस पर स्ट्रक्चर्ड रिप्लाई देगी। और यह भी बात विचारणीय है कि यदि सबूत बिल्कुल नहीं थे तो कोर्ट ने चार्जेस फ्रेम करने की परमिशन कैसे दी? इफ द एंटायर चार्जेस वर बेसलेस, देन द चार्जेस वर फ्रेम्ड। सो इसमें देयर आर सर्टेन टेक्निकल इश्यूज, एंड आफ्टर स्टडीइंग द जजमेंट in depth party will give a structured reply.
Pakistan and Afghanistan are at war. The former has declared open war on the Afghan Taliban government following renewed clashes along the shared border between Afghanistan and Pakistan. The escalation came after Pakistan bombed Afghanistan's Kabul and Kandahar earlier today, hours after Afghan forces attacked Pakistani border troops in what the Taliban government said was retaliation for deadly airstrikes earlier this week. Pakistan has claimed that its forces have killed 133 Afghan fighters. The Taliban says 55 Pakistani troops have died in its offensive. As the Pakistani military launched Operation Ghazab Lil Haq against Afghanistan, the country's defense minister Khwaja Asif posted on X, and I quote, "Our patience has reached its limit. Now it is open war between us and you." Amid escalating violence, both the militaries said they killed dozens of soldiers on the other side. At least 3 explosions were heard in Kabul. The Taliban government spokesperson Zabihullah Mujahid said Pakistan also carried out airstrikes in Kandahar and in the southeastern province of Paktia. Hours earlier, Afghanistan said its military launched its attack across the border into Pakistan late on Thursday in retaliation for deadly Pakistani airstrikes on Afghan border areas last Sunday. They said they had captured more than a dozen Pakistani army posts. The Afghan Defense Ministry has reported that 8 of its soldiers were killed in the land offensive. Pakistan claims at least 2 brigade headquarters have been destroyed in Kabul, while 1 corps headquarters and 1 brigade headquarters have been destroyed in Kandahar. They've also denied that any Pakistani soldiers were captured. Meanwhile, a state-run media outlet from Afghanistan's Nangarhar Bakhtar news agency has shared an image of what it says was a battalion of suicide attackers. It quoted an Afghan security source as saying the bombers were equipped with explosive vests and car bombs and were prepared to strike major targets. Tensions have been high between Pakistan and Afghanistan for months now, with deadly border clashes last October killing dozens of soldiers and civilians as well as suspected militants. A Qatari-mediated ceasefire between the neighbours had largely held, but the 2 sides have still occasionally traded fire across the border. Several rounds of peace talks in November failed to produce a formal agreement. Militant violence has surged in Pakistan in recent years, much of which Pakistan blames on the Pakistani Taliban or the TTP and outlawed Baluch separatist groups. The TTP is separate from but closely allied with Afghanistan's Taliban. Islamabad accuses the TTP of operating from inside Afghanistan, a charge both the group and Kabul deny. With elections in Tamil Nadu months away, major political realignments are underway. O. Selvam, the 3-time Chief Minister and a staunch loyalist of the late AIDMK Supremo Jayalalitha, has now joined the DMK. He did so today in the presence of party Chief and Chief Minister M.K. Stalin. Selvam and his supporters were expelled from the AIDMK in July 2022. He unsuccessfully contested the Ramanathapuram Lok Sabha seat as an independent candidate backed by the BJP-led NDA in the 2024 Lok Sabha polls. The AIDMK veteran joined the ruling DMK after months of failed efforts to become part of the NDA and futile attempts to unite different AIDMK factions. Lavishing fulsome praise on the Chief Minister, OPS said Tamil Nadu is witnessing good governance under Stalin's leadership and the DMK has done exemplary work in protecting Tamil Nadu and ensuring its progress. Training his guns on AIDMK General Secretary E. Palaniswamy, with whom he fought a bitter factional war within the party, OPS said the AIDMK is moving towards destruction under EPS. EPS and OPS have been politically estranged since the leadership tussle between them after the death of former Chief Minister J. Jayalalitha in 2016. Over the years, EPS has consolidated control of the AIDMK. In 2022, OPS and his supporters were expelled from the party. Hillary Clinton has told a congressional panel She had no idea about Jeffrey Epstein's crimes, as she called for lawmakers to question President Donald Trump under oath about his past association with the late sex offender and pedophile. The former U.S. Secretary of State and wife of former President Bill Clinton told the panel investigating the Epstein scandal, "I want to see the truth come out. Bill Clinton will testify next." Earlier, the couple had resisted a subpoena from the panel, dismissing it as politically motivated, before agreeing to testify as potential contempt of Congress proceedings loomed against them. The Clintons and Trump deny wrongdoing in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. After spending 6 hours speaking to the House Oversight Committee members, Hillary Clinton told reporters she was disappointed that the testimony was not made public. She criticized the Republican members of the committee for not asking any other person they deposed about Epstein or his convicted associate Ghislaine Maxwell. Bill Clinton, too, has said he had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes and that he cut off ties with him 2 decades ago. He said their contact arose in connection with his charity work after he left the presidency and that he regrets that he was ever associated with the disgraced financier. The Clintons' names repeatedly crop up in the Epstein files. However, so far there's no concrete evidence of any wrongdoing. Bill Clinton appears in text and photos that have been released in stages by the U.S. Department of Justice. The files reveal the extent of Epstein's connections with multiple high-profile individuals, including after he was convicted of serious sex crimes. The highly anticipated appearance by Bill Clinton before the Congressional Committee will be the first time a former U.S. president has testified to a congressional panel since Gerald Ford did so in 1983.
Well, I have just finished testifying. I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew, and what I knew is what I said in my statement this morning. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance, but whatever they asked me, I did my very best to respond. It was disappointing that they refused to hold a public hearing, so I wouldn't have to be out here characterizing it for you. You could have seen it for yourself. We had asked for that. We think it would have been better for the committee and its efforts to gather whatever information they are seeking. We had a bit of a challenge in the beginning because we had agreed upon rules based on the fact it was going to be a closed hearing at their demand, and one of the members violated that rule, which was very upsetting because it suggested that they might violate other of our agreements. So we had to cease the hearing for a period of time until we could get assurances that no rules would be broken going forward, and we returned to answer questions repetitively, literally over and over again. I don't know how many times I had to say I did not know Jeffrey Epstein. I never went to his island. I never went to his homes. I never went to his offices. So it's on the record numerous times. At the end, quite unusual, because I started being asked about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories that was propagated on the internet, that was serving as the basis of a member's questions to me. So I can only say that the best exchange that I had came at the very end, when, contrary to every other deposition they have taken, no Republican member asked any questions about Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell to anyone else they have deposed. And in fact, the Republican members didn't even show up for the deposition of Les Wexner, I had to point out that the only questions that any Republican member asked of any of the people they deposed was of former Attorney General Bill Barr when Chairman Comer asked him about the allegations, in his view, about Russia's involvement in my election in 2016. So at the very end of this hearing, after I made that point, I want to commend Chairman Comer for raising a series of significant questions that I responded to about the nature of the investigation and the areas that I thought should be explored. So I appreciated that. I want to see the truth come out. So that was a reassuring way to end a very long, repetitive deposition. I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light, and that he was charged and sadly given a sweetheart deal, which, as I said in my statement, had that not happened, perhaps his predatory behavior could have been stopped earlier. But I think it is fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal pleas in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what he was doing. And I think that that is exactly what my husband will testify to tomorrow.
Amid a raging debate on whether AI will result in a tsunami of job losses in the days ahead, comes more grim news from the tech world. Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey-led tech company Block has announced it will cut over 4,000 jobs, or nearly half its workforce, amid an AI boom. In a statement, Jack Dorsey has said, and I quote, "Intelligence tools have changed what it means to build and run a company. We're already seeing it internally. A significantly smaller team using the tools can do more and do it better. I don't think we're early to this realization. I think most companies are late." In a post on social media platform X, Dorsey said he has made one of the hardest decisions in the history of the company. He clarified that they're not making the decision because they're in trouble. Dorsey said, "Our business is strong. Gross profit continues to grow. We continue to serve more and more customers and profitability is improving. But something has changed. We're already seeing that the intelligence tools we are creating and using, paired with smaller and flatter teams, are enabling a new way of working, which fundamentally changes what it means to build and run a company. And that's accelerating rapidly." Co-founded by Dorsey in 2009 as Square, the company rebranded to Block in 2021 to reflect its broader focus on blockchain technology. The company says it expects to incur anywhere between $450 and $500 million in restructuring charges. A big claim by US President Donald Trump about Iran's missile capabilities is now facing scrutiny from within America's own intelligence community. In his State of the Union address, Trump warned that Iran could soon develop missiles capable of reaching the United States, escalating already tense relations with Tehran amid a heavy US military buildup in the Middle East. However, multiple sources familiar with classified assessments say US intelligence does not support that timeline. Officials point to a 2025 unclassified assessment by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which concluded that Iran may not have a militarily viable intercontinental ballistic missile until 2035.
A A key claim made by U.S. President Donald Trump about Iran's missile capabilities is facing serious scrutiny from within the intelligence community. In his State of the Union address this week, Trump warned that Iran was working on missiles that could soon reach the United States, a statement that raised the stakes in already tense relations with Tehran.
They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America.
But according to multiple sources familiar with classified assessments, U.S. intelligence does not back that timeline. Officials say there have been no changes to a 2025 unclassified assessment by the Defense Intelligence Agency, which concluded that Iran could take until 2035 to develop a militarily viable intercontinental ballistic missile. That assessment is based on Iran's current space launch vehicle technology, which analysts say would require significant adaptation before it could serve as a reliable ICBM platform.
They're trying to achieve intercontinental ballistic missiles. For example, you've seen them try to launch the satellites into space. You've seen them increasing the range of the missiles they have now. And clearly they are headed in the pathway to one day being able to develop weapons that could reach the continental U.S. They already possess weapons that could reach much of Europe, already now, as we speak. And the ranges continue to grow every single year exponentially, which is amazing to me. For a country that's facing sanctions, whose economy is in tatters, whose people are suffering, and somehow they still find the money to invest in missiles of greater and greater capacity every year. This is an unsustainable threat.
In other words, intelligence agencies believe Iran remains years away from fielding a missile capable of striking the U.S. homeland. One source added that even if China or North Korea, both of which have cooperated with Iran in the past, were to provide technological assistance, it would likely still take up to 8 years at the earliest to produce an operational ICBM-level system. The sources, speaking on condition of anonymity due to the sensitivity of intelligence matters, said they were unaware of any existing assessments indicating that Iran is on the verge of deploying such a missile. They did not rule out the possibility of new classified information, but stressed that no publicly known report supports the claim of an imminent threat to the continental United States. The White House declined to comment on the discrepancy. The controversy adds a new dimension to Trump's broader case for potential military action against the Islamic Republic. By presenting Iran's missile development as an urgent and near-term danger, the president appeared to frame the threat in immediate terms. However, if intelligence projections remain unchanged, the timeline may be far longer than suggested. The issue now becomes one of credibility and consequence. When presidential warnings about national security threats diverge from intelligence assessments, lawmakers and allies alike take notice.
For decades, it had been the policy of the United States never to allow Iran to obtain a nuclear weapon. Many decades. Since they seized control of that proud nation 47 years ago, the regime and its murderous proxies have spread nothing but terrorism and death and hate. They've killed and maimed thousands of American service members and hundreds of thousands and even millions of people with what's called roadside bombs. They were the kings of the roadside bomb. And we took out Soleimani. I did that during my first term. Had a huge impact. He was the father of the roadside bomb. And just over the last couple of months with the protests, they've killed at least, it looks like, 32,000 protesters. 32,000 protesters in their own country. They shot them and hung them. We stopped them from hanging a lot of them with the threat of serious violence. But this is some terrible people. They've already developed missiles that can threaten Europe and our bases overseas, and they're working to build missiles that will soon reach the United States of America. After Midnight Hammer, they were warned to make no future attempts to rebuild their weapons program, and in particular, nuclear weapons. Yet they continue starting it all over. We wiped it out, and they want to start all over again, and are at this moment again pursuing their sinister ambitions. We are in negotiations with them. They want to make a deal, but we haven't heard those secret words. We will never have a nuclear weapon.
As tensions with Iran continue to simmer, clarity over capabilities and timelines could shape decisions that carry global implications. For now, the intelligence community's assessment appears clear. Iran's path to an operational ICBM capable of reaching the United States is measured in years, not months, and that distinction could prove critical in the debate over what comes next.
That's all the time we have on this edition of Headlines at 8. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great weekend ahead. Do join us again at the same time on Monday.